We're explaining the cannot convert string to float error in Python. This common error pops up when you try to perform a mathematical operation on a value that's stored as text instead of a number. Python needs numbers, integers or floating point numbers, to do calculations. It can't directly work with strings representing numbers. Let's look at how this happens and how to fix it. 1. Understanding the error. The error message itself is pretty clear. Value error, could not convert string to float, 123A. This means you're trying to use the float function, or something that implicitly uses it, on a string that contains characters Python can't interpret as a number. In the example, 123A has a letter A, which isn't a valid numerical character. 2. Common causes. This error usually arises from user input, reading data from files, or incorrect data manipulation within your code. 2 and 1. User input. If you ask the user for a number using input, the input is always treated as a string. If the user enters something like 10.5, it's a string. If they type 10 or 10ABC, it's not a number, resulting in the error. 2.2. File reading. When reading data from a file, like a CSV or text file, values are often read as strings. If the file contains numbers represented as text, you'll need to convert them to the appropriate numeric type before using them in calculations. 2.3. Incorrect data types. If you unintentionally concatenate, join strings and numbers, you might end up with a string that looks like a number but is technically a string, causing the error. For example, else 10's 5 results in 5 in a string, not 15 a number. 3. Solutions. The solution is always to ensure the data you're working with is the correct type before using it in numerical operations. 3.1. Type conversion. Use the float function to convert a string to a floating point number. Crucially, this only works if the string contains a valid representation of a number, no letters, spaces, or other non-numeric characters. Before applying float, you can add error handling, like try except blocks, to catch cases where the conversion fails. 3.2. Data cleaning. If you are reading data from a file or handling user input, implement data cleaning steps to remove or handle invalid characters. For example, you might check for non-numeric characters and either remove them or raise an error to the user asking them to input a valid number. 3.3. Input validation. If taking user input, add validation to ensure the input is a number before proceeding. You can use a while loop and error handling to repeatedly prompt the user until they provide valid input. 4. Example code. Illustrating try except. Python try. User input equals input. Enter a number. Number equals float, user input. Print, the number is number. Accept value error, print invalid input. Please enter a valid number. This script attempts to convert user input to a float and handles the potential value error gracefully. Remember to always validate your data and use the appropriate type conversion functions to avoid this common error. By understanding these causes and solutions, you'll be able to effectively debug and prevent the cannot convert string to float error in your Python programs.